Let me just print out some research for today's programme. File, print. There we go. I'll need that for the trip I'm about to make. It's the Photowalk, episode 413. And it starts out today not on a walk, as I usually am, but in the warmth of my office. It's the last episode of 2023. The Photowalk, a show where we walk and make pictures, photographically sketchbooking our time together each week, enjoying the letters and inspirational stories that you've sent in and listening back to special studio conversations with guests from around the world, picture makers, explorers and motivators. And today, what a difference. I'm heading over to the English university city of Oxford to learn about a project, one that began with the purchase of 2 photographs, and then, well, it really started a detective process for my guest Tony Lorenzo. He's about to share with us stories and pictures that are a veritable goldmine in terms of finding somebody's photographic history. Right. So captivated have I been in this story since a letter arrived only weeks ago with a sort of truncated version of the tale you're about to hear that I've decided to make this into its own episode because there's so much more to it that you and I, from that original letter, didn't necessarily know. Remember last week I told you about a Sean Tucker film, The Most Powerful Kind of Photography, which I'll link to again in the show notes. Hang on, shoes. In it, Sean tells the warmest memory-pathed story about a very special person in his life, his grandmother, and how he was feeling at the time it was made, which is about a year ago, about her passing. This beautiful short 9 minutes or so biographical film culminates with thoughts about photographs and the precious nature of them, how art and composition and all those sorts of things that we pore over as a subject quite often when we talk about making photographs. Well, how that sort of thing doesn't even come a close second in terms of talking about legacy. There is a line in the film which, if you don't mind, I'll repeat again because it's very pertinent to today's show. I've heard it said that people die twice, said Sean. Once when their heart stops beating, and again the last time somebody says their name. It's a perfect eulogy to his grandmother and an absolutely wondrous celebration of the photography that shows a life well lived and loved. And that's why I'm interested to talk today with Tony Lorenzo. Tony discovered some pictures of a person that he didn't know at all, quite by chance, in a shop, in a market in London. And these 2 photographs led to the most incredible detective story to find the person in the photographs. The twists and the turns in this story are many, and at times I think they're really quite personal as well. So in revisiting this letter that I read to you 2-3 weeks ago, I hope that you will be, like I have been, very pleasantly reminded about the power of a still photograph. Right. Oxford. Here we come.
Today on the Photowalk.
I found photography a really, really, really incredible language to be able to say with images what I cannot say with words.
That's Tony Lorenzo from Spain, now living in England, recounting, I think, as the last edition of this year, a most beautiful photographic detective story, which he will tell you with a little bit of historical help here and there from my studio self. You'll get the idea as we go along. Anyway, there are actually 3 stories today. This one, then a tribute for a wonderful friend of this show, plus a very short piece at the tail end of today's programme. Somebody I saw stopped the car and went to talk with driving home from a walk on the Common with Sir Barkalot. It was one of those what the festive feel-good moments. I think today is a programme about photographic legacy, actually, and the importance of making pictures and then printing your photographs out. Maybe not all of them, but enough to say, I was here, I am here, and I'll always be here. And talking of photographs, thank you to our extra milers and mpb.com who sponsor this show and keep it here week on week on week. mpb.com is a website where you can safely buy, sell and trade quality used photo and video gear online and be a part of the circular economy. And with New Year around the corner, you might be thinking, hang on, I need to change my kit around a bit. So if you're buying, you get peace of mind with a 6-month guarantee. If you're trading or selling, MPB will send a courier which will pick up your kit on a day you specify. Once that gear has arrived back at their warehouse and they've gone through the checks to make sure it's all been graded properly, you get paid direct into your account, quick smart. mpb.com is an easy-to-use website and it's helping photographers to buy quality used kit or sell gear that you no longer need to free up some cash and give others a chance to go make their stories. Go to mpb.com and I will have a link on today's show page. Now, usually I'm walking with you as I photograph and read your letters, though today is a slightly different trip out. I find myself in Oxford with Tony Lorenzo, who captured my imagination and heart, I think, originally with his letter about finding 2 photographs of a girl called June from the 1930s. Today, I think, fills in some of the gaps that a letter couldn't quite. There's some twists and there's certainly some turns today. Of course, you may still be walking, listening to this show, so shall we walk? Checklist out. Coffee, check. Garibaldi's, check. Walking boots, check. And nostalgia tuned in. What? Where's that in my kit bag? Let's walk. Tony, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to tell this story in more detail. When I read your letter, I was captivated enough. When I watched the film, I thought, oh, there's more to this. And then we spoke subsequently on the telephone as well. And I thought, oh, now the story is a lot more complex. And there's a lot more threads to it than we originally had in the letter. And so thanks so much for agreeing to talk to us about it. One of the things we didn't discuss at the time of your letter was your childhood, because that does play to this story. It's an important part of this story. It's a sad sort of part of it. But it is, I think, very important when it comes to why you started collecting pictures of somebody you didn't know at all. So tell me about, for fear of sounding like you're in the psychiatrist's chair, but tell me about your childhood.
I had a very good childhood. I grew up in the south of Spain, in a very tiny place in the south of Spain, and my family was perfect family. Everything went well until I was 12 years old and my father passed away in a car crash. And I remember for 2 days I was just like trying to embrace it, because he was teaching me when I was a kid that we live once, and try to treasure all the memories that we've got. I remember when he passed away, the very first thing that I did was making questions. The type of questions that you do to a person when you are going to say goodbye, but I didn't have that chance. So I was going to my grandma's house and I was making questions to my grandma, making questions to my aunts. And the questions all the time were answered with photos or like cards or like drawings from my dad. And I started creating my own album.
Where were these pictures coming from?
They were coming from the house of family members. The thing is, like, you know, when you pass certain generations and you are asking to someone who's the person in the picture, unless there's a scribble in the back of the picture, obviously you don't know the person. No. So I was asking my grandma, who is this? And he's like, well, I think it's an uncle. And I was like, whose uncle? And she was like, I have no idea. So I was like, you mind if I take it? And I was taking it. So
and then you'd make it
my uncle.
Your uncle?
Yeah, right. That's it. That was my uncle. And with the time, I started like trying to investigate these people, and I actually found that they were like real family. Some of them were real family. But back then, I didn't have any idea who they were. I was just like having fun creating my family tree with uncles with no name, aunts with no names, brothers and sisters with no names.
So you were inventing your family?
Yeah, that was like... That's how I spend my afternoons all the time. It's like mainly in summer when it was so hot, I prefer to stay at home, like playing with old pictures.
What about, was your mother around?
Yeah, my mom was around, but the problem is when my dad passed away, my mom passed away as well. Not in a physical way, but she was gone. I remember she was waiting for him to come back for years of her life, thinking that he will like knock the door at some point, and that never happened. And then she was diagnosed with cancer, and then she was like, well, that's it. I'm going with him.
And how old were you then?
When she was diagnosed, I was 16.
Right.
And then she passed away when I was 20. So it was a big lapse of time compared with the goodbye that I had to give to my dad. That was basically a goodbye, see you tomorrow, and never see him again.
So you built this family album out of extended family members, people that had long gone actually, and then they suddenly became your uncle or brothers or sisters. Have you got any of those albums? I know you've brought, and we'll share some of these pictures on the show page, but you've brought some photographs along. I wonder whether you've got any of those albums or pictures in the albums.
The ones that I've got, the ones that I can share with you later on are from that invented family. The ones that I've got here are my family ones. Are like coming from moments that I never experienced, that are like different stages of life that I was not around.
So who's this?
That's my dad.
That's your dad.
Before I was born, when he was working in the port, was his happy moment.
A handsome man.
He was Spanish, proper, like Spanish looking.
Yes.
My mom was the one that was not very Spanish. She was Spanish, but she was looking from somewhere else. She had like red hair, blue eyes, white skin, was like...
Not so Mediterranean.
No. That's her when she was 16. She's like, that's my first car. That was the best car in the world. Anytime that you turn, the doors were opening by itself. And I remember my dad was all the time saying, behold, the doors are opening. But you know, those kind of memories for some people can be terrifying, but for me...
They're very funny.
Yeah, they are like the world for me.
And it does, as we're looking through your pictures here of your childhood, it looks perfectly happy, doesn't it? There you are by the seaside.
That's why when my dad passed away, all my family pictures stopped. Like, there was no pictures with my mom anymore. There was no pictures with my sister. There was no pictures in general of my life because there was no happy moments to create.
So everything stops at 12 years old.
Yeah.
There was an interesting story. I don't know which one of the Canary Islands it was, but there was a volcanic eruption. Tell me what happened. Because it has a photographic bent, this story. Yeah, so
that was a big dramatic eruption of the volcano. They mentioned that when the volcano like exploded, people were not expecting the volcano to be exploding on that night, and was really fast to ask people straight away, like, please come to your house, leave your house, take your loving ones and the animals if you can, and run away. And I remember they mentioned on the news that people were like not very fast about taking anything. They were like just taking family albums.
Wow. After a little digging and to follow Tony's story just a bit closer, the volcanic eruption being referenced here is on the island of La Palma, where 3 eruptions at the end of the 40s, then in 1971, and more recently after a week-long build-up of seismic activity in 2021, authorities evacuated 7,000 people as the Cumbre Vieja volcano's slow-moving lava wiped whole communities of housing, businesses and farms from the map. It seems from these stories and others around the world, when people flee natural disaster zones such as volcanoes, they take with them pets and family photo albums as their most prized heirlooms. So from 12 years old, you were building family albums, but family albums not featuring necessarily your family. It was extended family, and it was other people as well in pictures, but you were building this family story that you rather hoped represented your childhood. Have I got that right?
Yeah, it was not just representing the childhood, but like trying to grow a future.
Yeah.
A future that I knew that I wouldn't be able to live because mom and dad were not around.
No.
And I didn't have the comfort of like a family that was like, in case that something is going wrong, you always go to mom and dad when you got the chance. But at the age of 12, I knew there was no one to go back. I was the one that was cooking at home. I was the one that was like looking after the house. And I remember I grew up like being the dad of the family, and building up another family with the pictures was creating me, like giving me the idea of what will be my life if the things were like, okay, dad came back that night, or mom didn't get the cancer. That's how I grew up.
What were their names?
Antonio and Carmen. They were like, they couldn't be more Spanish. It's like Antonio is like the 90% of the population in Spain, and Carmen can be like the 40%. So my name is Antonio. I call myself Tony because I'm like the name.
Oh, so you're Antonio Jr.?
Yeah, well, Antonio Jr., because my grandfather was Antonio. 3 of my uncles are Antonio. My dad was Antonio. It's too many. There's like 12 Antonios in my family. My mom wanted to call me Manuel, and they agreed to call me Manuel. And he went to the register, and he registered me as Antonio. He went back home saying, by the way, he's Antonio now.
So I'm intrigued then what happens. So this is, I suppose your photographic story and your interest in photography starts by making these, I'm going to call them fantasy albums, but I don't want you to feel that's a negative connotation, because it's like something out of a movie in many respects. And as you've said, your mum and dad might well be looking down from that, whatever that cloud is, laughing and partaking of the joke. Photographically, though, what was happening with you with photography as a hobby? Because I know you take some amazing photographs, and that's your hobby now. But what was it then?
It's I call it more than a hobby. I call it a language.
Language, I like that.
My problem since I was a kid, I've been struggling with something very like new for me that is called ADHD. I was diagnosed when I was a kid, but mom and dad were not here to remind me that was my problem. One of the problems that I've got with it is that I'm not able to express all my feelings or all the things that I need to say. So I found photography a really, really, really incredible language to be able to say with images what I cannot say with words.
Wow.
You know, when you are sad, I don't cry. It's one of the things that I do, is that I don't cry. And when I'm sad, I just take pictures. When my mom passed away, I took a train and I didn't show up in my hometown for 4 months. I crossed Europe, taking pictures to talk about how I was to say goodbye to my mom. And that's how I built up my photography language. That everything photography-wise for me, like clicking a camera, happened when my mom passed away. And that was the very end of a research of how to find a way to talk. Because when I was a kid, sometimes it was impossible to make people to understand what was going on. I feel like frustrated, angry, sad, and I couldn't speak the language. But then when I found that I didn't have to do explanations or to give explanations to anyone, like when my mom passed away, it was like, I need to talk, I need to be heard. And photography was the only way that I had as a language to be able to express myself.
So the story now is going to jump by a few years, not by many, because you found yourself in the UK at university, at a town, I might add, which wasn't so far from where I was brought up. I grew up in Hertfordshire. You went to university in Hertfordshire, in Hatfield.
Yeah, Hatfield was like, university was like offering me like different universities around Europe. And then for some reason I was like, well, I speak English, so let's go to England.
Yeah.
So I chose Hatfield, and it was like quite like a surprising journey. I was never expecting in 1,000 years that I will end up doing my last year of the university in England. And it was quite amazing. It was a clash of culture that I didn't have in Spain. When we are like studying art, we are very classical. You have to do like certain subjects in lots the whole time. And then in here, they literally said to me, what you like? And it's like, photography? And they were like, well, then do photography.
Also, for your art degree, you brought in your photography.
Yeah. And I ended up the year in here doing photography.
Yeah.
And was really successful. I was doing everything that I could do. I was doing digital pinhole cameras with using cameras that I destroyed just for that, and was really successful. And I was using film cameras. I was talking about like different collections that I was doing about the night. Everything was really, 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 really amazing. Until I started like showing some interest on like going back to my childhood when I was like taking pictures of people that I didn't know to build up a family.
So you started building more family albums.
Yeah. Right. So I went to London. I was told, you have to go to Camden because you got like loads of charity shops in the flea market. You will be like finding loads and loads of pictures down there. And I remember I went with the idea of like, oh, well, I go to Camden. I will be like there for like a couple of hours. Then I'll go to town. I will see Trafalgar Square. I will go to the British Museum. Nothing happened on that day. I ended up like being like for 6 hours in Camden Town, sitting down in front of a box that was full of photography.
So Camden, for those that don't know of Camden, it's a pretty trendy place. Camden Market, full of artisan stores and second-hand shops. And so you'd found a shop with boxes of photographs.
I saw the box. The box was not even like proper exposed to the people. It was like underneath a lot of like a table with jewelry on the top. But then I pull it out and I asked the guy, like, can I have a look? And he was like, £5 for £1. And I was like, okay.
5 pictures for £1?
Yeah, that's it. Right. 5 pictures for £1.
So you just made it up?
I was like, I had a budget of like £25 for today, so let's have fun. So I sat down in front of the box and I literally, it was almost 6 hours.
The story so far is very much like a sliding doors moment, really. The doors popularised in the late 20th century, meaning seemingly inconsequential moments that nonetheless alter the trajectory of future events, i.e. change your life. Tony had found himself in London's 4th most attended tourist attraction, Camden Market, and his sliding door was one that led him into a shop selling boxes of photographic prints amongst other things. Now, to put this door that slides into some kind of context, Camden Market had grown from its only open on Sundays roots, where tie-dyed apparel was the order of the day, to what it was when Tony dropped by. Hundreds and hundreds of fascinating stalls and small shops, including bric-a-brac, art, clothing, anything really went, as long as you weren't a high street branded store. They weren't so welcome. So in many ways, Tony had completely stumbled across this shop, and with photographic eyes, seen a box shoved under other stuff that may never have been found had he visited, say, the shop's either side. And though he didn't know it at the time, finding the box was about to change his life, and even lead more recently to offers and interests from movie producers and authors. Where did these pictures come from? So the shop had these, if I might call them, random collection of photographs.
So this is coming from like different houses. Basically, when a person passes away, there's no family members or no one that is claiming the stuff that is in the house. They normally to do a funding for imagine the funeral, or if they have to pay any bills that the person that passed away left behind, or even the family can decide that we need to pay certain things for the funeral, then we don't have the money. So they literally open the house and they sell everything. Right. So they do auctions and they can sell like furniture, they can sell loads of stuff that are related to the person that passed away. And then sometimes happen that there's albums, and basically the charities can open the albums, and then second-hand shops are selling the photos separately to do a little bit of more money.
Okay, so some people want to sell the albums, they take the photographs out of the albums, and some shops will sell the pictures. I dare say some shops won't know the value of the pictures or feel that there's any value and just bin the photos and keep the albums.
Yeah, there was a section actually that was just albums. And I was all the time checking in the albums as well, because I was thinking I can find something spectacular inside one of the albums.
This is interesting because there's a local to me, and it's an antiques emporium that I've talked about before, and it has old postcards, some old photographs, but they have boxes and boxes and boxes of albums that no longer have the photographs in them. So this is clearly where these albums are coming from that I see, and I often look at them and think, where are the pictures?
Yeah, I've got the pictures. I took all of them. It's you cannot imagine the amount of pictures that I've got. I'm like a hoarder of pictures from people that I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that child was still hungry for like taking memories from other families to build up.
You're still building your family up.
Yeah. So I've got loads and loads and loads and loads of pictures from people that are not related to me because I keep collecting.
5 pictures, £1. You walked out of that shop in Camden Market, very trendy part of London, not realising what this was about to become, because 2 of those pictures featured one girl from 1930-something.
Was 1930. She was born in 1930, 1936, where one of the pictures was marked down. The appearance was like 2 adults, 1 woman, 1 man, and then 1 little kid. The little kid was exactly the same with the people that appears with her. I had the idea that were the parents, but I didn't know if the parents were like exactly the same ones. I knew at least that the girl was the same one, so that's where everything began.
What was it about that girl that you thought, here's a story?
I was terrified. I was literally deeply terrified with the fact that someone's family tree that was taking so much time for whoever was to collect and to put together and to keep safe in an album suddenly was split in bits in a market for 5 pictures for £1.
But how did you... So you've got these 2 pictures of June. So we know she's called June. How did you know she was called June, by the way? When did it become apparent? Was it written on the back of a photograph? Is it that simple?
I thought that June was the month, but then when I was showing that to my teacher at the university here in England, she was like, "Oh, June is a really nice name
June's
for a girl."
A name, not a month. Yes, yeah.
So I literally was like blown up. Like I thought that was like, oh, I felt so stupid back then, and I kept looking for a girl called June, and that was the very first clue that I had when I started looking for the pictures. I was like, anything that got June written in the back is from the collection. And then I had loads of pictures from different families that were taken in the month of June.
Yeah.
Because June was in the back of the pictures.
So sometimes you had June that was complete red herring, as we would say, that it wasn't that June at all. So I assume you were going back to the same shop, because this is the place that has the photographs that were thrown out or separated from the albums.
So for about 4 months, my conversations with the owner of the shop was like, "You're right," and then sitting down and looking through the pictures, nothing else, no conversations. He didn't know my name, I didn't know his name. He only knew that I was going to give him a £5 at the end of the day. I remember when I started struggling finding pictures that were like having the same family or the same note at the back or the same scratch, I asked him, like, "Do you have more pictures of this lot?" And he took me to the shop that was in front of him, and he was like, "Well, he've got more." And then the guy at the end of the aisle got more, and then the shop at the end of the aisle got more. And I was like, what is going on? And he was like, "Well, you know, the lots are coming." So the lots, they were receiving lots of pictures, and they were like, "Well, let's divide it in 6 pieces. So I'll sell 1 bit, you will sell another bit, you will sell another bit." And
so this family was being shared between 4 different shops.
Mm-hmm. There were like 4 different shops, and also what mortified me, and I always regret not noticing this earlier, because, you know, I read during a day 4,500 tourists go to Camden Town.
Yes.
So I'm not the only person that stopped there and buy pictures. There's probably pictures of June in America, in Canada, in Australia, in Japan. There's the possibilities of like a person just like doing the same thing that I did. It was just putting the hand inside a box and taking 5 pictures. Probably they did the same, and probably there's pictures of June in other places of the world.
Well, we're going to put the original 2 photos that you found on the show page, but can I see them? Have you got them in front of you? Because I'd be fascinated to see these pictures. So they're quite, well, they're sepia or sepia. Oh my word, yeah, the dads. I mean, this is quite some detective work, Tony, because when I look at her in the left and right hand pictures here, she doesn't instantly look the same person to me. Perhaps the mother does. The mother's the connection for me. Definitely not the father, because he's got this really sort of weird kind of bouffant hair in one of them. I don't know what's going on there. That surely wasn't the fashion of the day. I mean, how did you start to then piece all these together? Because she's going to grow with these pictures, isn't she? She's going to age.
You know, it's so many tiny details that you cannot see with one go. For example, you didn't notice that there's a parrot on top of her here.
Oh, no.
It's the same parrot that you got there.
Oh, look, it's the same parrot. I did not see that.
This tiny details is like, if you see the pictures so many times, you start like seeing tiny details that you didn't catch before. Yeah. But the father was really confusing because it's a lapse of time, can be like 2 years in between those 2 pictures, no more than that. And you can see the father hairstyle is completely not the same. And he looks more tired in one of the pictures, like he could be like his granddad. But discovering with the pictures, going around with the pictures, you can see that is the dad, and there was a different stage in his life.
There were no brothers or sisters of June. June is an only child, yeah?
Yeah, she was the only child. That's the unlucky bit for her. She didn't have any more family members apart of mom and dad. And she was a lonely girl, but what we see in the pictures is she had a very happy childhood.
Yeah.
She did many things, and she's always smiling in the pictures.
This is interesting, though, because some of these photographs are very documentary. You've got, are they the parents there? So they're the parents walking along the road.
Yeah.
There's quite a few pictures of the parents just walking. And that's quite unusual, actually, for a family album. They're not posing, they're walking.
Yeah, it's also like, I don't know, it's like they see things and they were like documenting things that normally won't be like the thing that you have in a family album. Like there's a train wreck that was...
There's a train crash. Yeah, and there's a reason why this is in the family album, which we'll come to in a moment.
Yeah, so you got very unusual pictures sometimes that are like not normal for a family picture, and
not at that day and age, no.
Yeah, the oldest picture that I've got is from 1924, and you can see the mum and the dad getting married, and it's a picture that was taken just on the go without posing.
It's a documentary. Who were taking these pictures? Do you know?
Grandfather. The grandfather was I discovered this late in the story, but the grandfather was the photographer of the family. Many of the pictures, many of the connections that I've got in between the pictures is because of the signature of the granddad in the back of the pictures.
There's another signature, which is not an official signature, that joins these pictures together. This is fascinating. There was a problem with the camera in the shutter.
Yeah, many of the pictures, the connection that I had, and that I was lucky enough for them to be unlucky, is there's a piece of fabric and a hair of the dog inside the shutter of the camera.
Yes.
So anytime that they were taking a picture, it was in between the lenses and the film. So end up that hair and that piece of fabric is shown in many of the pictures. And that's a good connection because when there was no pictures with June or the parents and you didn't know who was like showing up in that picture, you will have always that piece of hair that was saying this belongs to the same people. It's like a fingerprint. That fingerprint was in every single picture that I had doubts. It's like, oh, is this someone related to them? And then you see the hair and it's like, yes. So the train wreck, for example, you can see that belongs to the album because the hair is in the picture.
That's extraordinary, don't you think?
It's a massively lucky incident. It's like, because I was not doing this by myself. I had some friends that were like coming sometimes with me, and I was like, well, instead of 5 hours, I can spend 2 hours if you're coming with me. So I was taking friends and, you know, to explain to my friends what I was doing back then. And it's like, why do you want to collect people's lives? And it's like, just shut up and help me with it.
Well, look, I think we need to move to the next part of the story, which is a place called Scarborough, which is in the north of England on the coast.
And Tony Lorenzo returns for part 2 of his beautiful photographic detective story in a moment.
Oh, it's a windy one today. I know I said I wasn't walking with your letters today, but you know me, I do like to tread a little of life's path. I think we're doing a lot of that today, actually, to make some pictures and share some thoughts. And the thoughts I'd like to share with you are really, well, they're thank yous. Thank you for your support. The Photowalk as a programme, as a project, as a podcast, as a cathartic, creative thing for me, is so very, very precious. I know I say that reasonably often, but it's true. It really is. So your support for this show is, well, it doesn't go unnoticed. For the fact that you listen, for those of you who do share the show, thank you. For those of you that shop with MPB, our sponsor, thank you. To MPB, yes, for their support since the start of this show. Well, pretty much the start of the show. I also want to thank those who write into this show for the fun stuff. Many of you really understand the humour, perhaps my humour, odd humour. Thank you for that and for your letters. And thank you for, well, the frankly outstanding letters that you send in, full of, well, sometimes vulnerability. Very authentic nature of the letters and the thoughts, the feelings that you send in about photography and walking and how much that means to you. I always say thank you at the end of the show as well to those who lend me their time. And because I'm ending the programme today in I'd say an alternative fashion, really, for reasons that will become very, very clear, and actually heartwarmingly so toward the end of the programme, I'm going to say thank you now to those who are signed up as volunteers. Neil Ford, is he head of IT? Oh, yes, he is, that one, that very one. Neil Ford, thank you. And I always thank him for the support technically that he provides the programme. It's very windy up here. I hope you can hear me. I'm hoping I'm shielding the microphone enough so it doesn't become just whoosh, because the wind has really come in. We've got another storm coming in towards, well, the next couple of days, certainly. So, yes, thank you, Neil, for being head of IT. But I feel I should put another sign on your metaphorical office door. Frankly, I could add a whole bunch of signs, so much so you'd end up, well, it would look like the sleeve of a Boy Scout or Girl Guide who's done all their badges, you know, woodcraft, hobbies, sport, photography. Photography was a badge. It wasn't a badge I did. I wish I had. But the badge or the sign that I would put on your office door, the additional sign, Neil, would be Head of Sanity. Because you listen to me when I'm making my daft IT mistakes. You tell me what I should be doing. In turn, I appreciate I don't always instantly listen so well. But it's usually only a couple of hours, isn't it, before I come back and say, do you know what? you were making a lot of sense. Emily Renier, who helps with our Facebook group, she says exactly the same thing, doesn't she? And my thanks too to Andrea Gilpin, who volunteers, well, you volunteer your time to keep a check on the messages and the things that happen with Instagram. You are a star, a North Star, definitely, in terms of Insta, that's for sure. And then our latest helper to the show, Kelly Mitchell, who spent a lot of time engaging with Facebook, the Photowalk Facebook group. It hasn't gone unnoticed, Kelly, queen of that part of Canada that always seems to be snowing, even in July. And also to those in the future who are about to help out. There are a few names I've been speaking to. You know who you are. And I look forward to our chats in the new year. Plus, to all those who've decided to support the show, because I know not everybody likes to subscribe to things like Patreon, or the extra mile as we call it. And not as a by the way, but a big wholesome full fat Coca-Cola way, thank you, extra milers. You have a super show today, episode 68 it is, that's waiting for you on Patreon. But for those of you who've decided to support this podcast so that we can afford the time and actual money, actually, to buy into our platforms and kit repairs, and for those who've decided to support the show by buying the new book in time for Crimble's 2023 and New Year 23 into 2024. At the tail end of my interviews, I've been asking my guests, my studio guests, for a fair while, what is your why? You know that. And those who answer mostly and understandably interpret the question to be one that's trying to unpick the reason for making and taking pictures, recording the world, as I say, on the page where we're selling the book in a fraction of a second. Others observe in a more introspective fashion through the lens of their life how people or situations forge the answer to a question I've begun to consider could be a whole podcast of itself, really, the question of why. Though I enjoy asking this rather searching question, I've not really attempted to answer it myself until now within the pages of the ebook. Across 99 pages, I must put one more in for a revision just to reach that round 100. Supported by 116 photographs, in this ebook, Why? A Sketchbook of Life, I published 20 answers, including my own, received from photographers to this question. Some recent, the remainder of those taken from the archived reaches of the Photowalk podcast. And it starts with a very personal account of a particular day in 2009 that has, upon reflection, helped me recognise the facets of my own life that forge a creative leaning as to what my own why is. So that's the book, which concludes with a series of further questions prompting you to answer the why of your own life and creativity. And your answers may well indeed form private reflection, or if you feel emboldened, perhaps you might consider sharing your thoughts with me so that I can share your revelatory words with our special community of walkers and photographers within this here podcast. So the book is available. It's £10 through the website, photowalk.show, a very personal project, which you'll understand through my own search for why in the opening chapter, is also a way to support this show as we look and hope to grow and maintain it in 2024. And I say we because it's you and I and my other listener, granted. They're very important, always walking alongside us, I know. It's incredibly un-English and more than just a little Dickensian at this time of year to hold out a hand and say, please, sir, etc., especially with so many things going on. But for those of you who enjoy the show and would like to support us, then yes, the ebook is there. And I'll even flutter my eyelashes like Mark Lester did, the 1968 Oliver Twist, the film that used to be on every Christmas in our house. It would have been very strange had Mark Lester not been there saying, please, sir, I want some more. Anyway, thank you for all your help, whether you listen, whether you are an extra miler, whether you've been a guest. I know many guests continue to listen to this show. I forget to mention that actually in my thank yous, and I really should, because there are some who've been guests of the programme that go on to be our friends, photo walking together with you and I. So thank you. You are the reason I make these walks, and I'll do it as long as it's clear that you like the company. Shall we return to Tony's story? Yes, please, Neil. Here's Tony Lorenzo with this wonderful photographic detective story.
Oh, I do like to be beside the seaside. I do like to be beside the sea. I do like to be upon the from, where the brass band plays fiddly-om-bom-bom.
Scarborough, on the northeast coast of England. It's where we go for the next part of our story. It's where Tony tracks June to through her pictures. Scarborough as a place was founded just shy of 1000 AD and is rich in history. Its 2 bays with sandy beaches are split by a headland, which you'll hear referred to as a mountain in the story. And on the headland, or mountain, are the ruins of the 12th century Scarborough Castle. 400 years later, give or take, it became Britain's first seaside resort, he says, knowing full well that historically every town in the UK claims to have the oldest pub. So why shouldn't this be a similar moment where every seaside town claims to be the first seaside resort? But it seems plausible that really this was the first of Britain's resorts. And 50 years before famous Brighton on the south coast of England, Scarborough pioneered bathing machines for women who entered the ocean clad in vast garments from horse-drawn sheds on wheels. Men were more basic in our needs, obviously, and we just swam naked from boats or the sand itself. The corporation of the town, horrified by the chance of, spot the quaint British phrase now, hanky-panky in the sand dunes, quickly produced rules specifying bathing areas, with very strict distances to be kept between men and women and bathing clothes to be worn from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Outside that time, anything went. As a holiday destination, it has that classic historical seaside charm such places are known for, like the penny slot amusement arcades. There were dozens of plush Victorian-styled hotels where a melon boat with cherry on top is still considered a starter dish. Bed and breakfasts where the landlady would check every couple for a wedding ring and be very suspicious if you rocked up claiming to be Mr. and Mrs. Smith and pushed the single beds together. And fish and chip shops are plenty. It's also a place that June, in our story, would holiday often in. And that's where Tony picks up the next part of his photographic detective story.
Blue sky smiling at me, nothing but blue sky.
Scarborough, the seaside town of Scarborough. This part of the story, this is amazing because you've got these photographs of June on a beach, still quite young. There's one here outside a house as well. And you decided to turn, well, you've already been a detective finding these pictures of June, but you wanted to go searching for this place, which you didn't recognize in the photographs to start with. There's no reason why you would.
This was the hardest bit. I got to the level of having 67 pictures, and I started to see places that were repeating on the picture. So it was like some place that was in a beach size, and I was like, why are they always going to that place? Is that place special? I tried to search in the background to see if I could find anything that was like telling me, oh, this is a place. And I couldn't find anything at the first thing. The thing is, in the back of one of the pictures was written Scarborough, but in a really bad English. I'm not English at all. I can speak the language, but was literally Scarbor, and that's it. And I was like, what is that? Was Scarborough? And I was like,
shortened.
Yeah, but was very shortened. And I was like asking people, and people were like, no, I don't recognize that. I don't recognize that. So because I was showing the pictures, and they were like, well, this looks like a very funny place. It's like that.
Well, donkeys on the beach.
That Scarborough that you can see in some of the pictures, it's not that anymore.
Well, it's Scarborough Boating Lake, but that's not there now.
No. It's there's many places that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
The place that gave me the clue, there's a picture of the girl in the beach, and you can see a castle on the top of a mountain in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And I started looking for a castle on the top of a mountain close to a beach. I spent, I'm telling you, like 10 years of my life, mountain by mountain, by the sea, looking for castles and castles and castles. I was back in Spain as well. Like I spent like a year in Spain after I found the pictures for the first time. And then when I went back to England to living here, I started to have some answers from some people, and they gave me some names. But then I found in 2018, I found the castle on the top of the mountain. I was like 100% sure that was the castle. There was no way that was the same situation for the picture. It was found that was Scarborough. I showed the name to people, and some of the people didn't recognize it. And suddenly, someone after I found the castle said to me, "Oh, that's a Scarborough." And I was like, "Well, if you told me like 10 years ago," but it was a good 10 years. Was not a waste of time, because I had loads of time to put all the pictures together, and many things happened in the meantime. Like, I was able to build up the whole family tree with mum, dad, uncle, aunt, grandfathers. I could tell you the whole story of every single member of the family just because of the pictures.
Wow.
I can tell you the father was working for the train. That's why they were going to Scarborough from Yaxley, because...
Ah, right. So Yaxley is where they live.
Yeah. But Scarborough is like the place that was like the base for them.
Yes.
So they were traveling for free because the father was working in the train.
Oh, so they got all these seaside holidays for nothing.
Yeah. Scarborough is 5 hours away from here. So I convinced one of my friends to drive me there. And we spent 5 hours in a car to go to Scarborough and find the spots of the pictures. That was a whole week, non-stop, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock nighttime, every day, trying to find every single spot on the pictures.
Now, one of the pictures here, this is fascinating. I know that some people didn't understand, why you were on this quest. And there was an eternal question over the phone, I think, sometimes of, well, why do you want to do that? What's the point of doing it? What did you say to people that was, well, why do you want to do that, Tony?
With all the pictures, the situation was fine. Like, when I went to the beach and I was taking the picture of the castle, was okay. Then when I went to where there's a picture with her on a horse with the dad, I was making questions to people, and people were like just pointing, the horses is over there. Yeah. But then there's a specific picture that is her in the entrance of a house.
Ah, this is number 31.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether we should say the name of the street. You obviously know it.
I know it. I can walk you there with close eyes, and I know exactly because it was the very last picture that I found before leaving Scarborough. When I was taking the picture, someone showed up from the top of the building in a window, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm just taking a picture." And I was just like, come down, because I wanted to take the same exactly picture. I wanted to have the door open. That will be delightful.
Yes.
When I explained to the guy that I had pictures from a girl that was born in 1930s, and I was just like trying to find all the spots, he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Well, why not? I'm trying to find this girl's life. I wanted to know how was her life, and I was just like, I'm documenting everything that happened, and I found this door, and I think it's a very, very, very good coincidence that I found the place like literally years and years after." And he literally said no, and he closed the door.
Oh.
Yeah, he didn't understand. He was like, why hell will be you doing this?
Well, it's a block of... when this picture was taken, number 31, when it was taken in the 30s or whatever, and then you've got it 2018. Now it's obviously turned into a block of flats, because it's got a buzzer outside with 1, 2, 3, 4... looks like 7 or 8 different buttons. Weren't you tempted to ring every single button and tell them the story?
We did. We did. The problem with Scarborough, and you were talking before about the summers in Scarborough.
Yeah.
We went in February. Was really, 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 really convenient that we went in February, because there's no people around, and some of the pictures, like the picture in the beach, doesn't have any person around because there was no summer. It was February. Was really convenient at the time. And the thing is that in that block of flats, I think they are like renting the flats for people in summer. Yeah. So the only person that was answering was the person that was like looking through the window.
Was the miserable one.
Yeah, the one that didn't want anyone.
No, what a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible.
How did you find this? I mean, did you just literally go to every street in Scarborough that had a number 31 to look for this door? Surely not. I mean, Scarborough is not massive, but it's not small.
We were three of us. Was my flatmate Alejandro and a friend of mine, Sylvia, and we were non-stop obsessed with finding that picture.
Number 31, yeah.
We were obsessed, crazy. Like, you cannot imagine. Like, we were like waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning just to start walking, and we were like going back home at 10 o'clock, nighttime.
At night?
Yeah, non-stop. And the very last day when we gave up and we were like, well, we've got the ones that we've got. You have to be happy for that.
Yeah.
That's it. I remember we were walking down the street, and then my friend was like, because we were looking for the 31, but we were looking also for the fence. And then we were talking going down the hill, and then my friend Sylvia started screaming, "It's the fence! It's the fence!" She got bananas. I mean, she crossed the road, and I saw so many cars hitting her in that moment.
Ooh.
But she crossed, and she like hugged the fence like I never seen a person hugging someone.
Because it's an iron, I should just explain, it's an iron, we must put this picture on the show page. It's an iron fence. It's unmistakably the same house, isn't it?
Yeah, it's when I scanned the picture and I was like looking deeply into it, there's even some cracks on the stairs
on the pavement,
that
on the steps, rather.
That are still in there.
Yeah.
It's literally 7 days non-stop looking for that door. The other pictures, I have to say, were like easy-ish to find, but this one was really, because it's so like a non-difficult picture. It's just one girl in front of a door, and the door is like, can be any door in any part of the world, but happened that was in there.
Are you tempted to go back and ask somebody to open that door to see if you can see what you can see in the picture where June has the door open behind her?
I really need to find the landlord of that house.
Yes.
That is strange. But again, we are back to, hello, I'm a Spanish photographer that is looking for a girl from 1930s, and I'm just wondering, can you help me? Will you open the door of your house for me? That sounds weird. But I'm doing my best. Anytime that I'm going with all the copies of the pictures, and I'm showing to the people that I'm like telling the truth. I'm not like some crazy person that is going around trying to do something dodgy. It's something that I have to explain many times, and it helped me to keep going with the story.
So this search for June. June's a young lady at this point. Well, she's a girl. She's a young lady, and she's on holiday, and she's with her mum and dad, and you're able to trace parts of Scarborough that are behind her. I mean, it's just such a wonderful story. But people grow older, and at this point, you have a real stroke of luck. You happen to find the Scarborough News lady. We're going to call the Scarborough. Was she a reporter? Scarborough News is a newspaper, isn't it? So was she a reporter? I mean, how did this happen, this connection with her?
So one of the pictures was showing June playing with a boat in something that looks like a swimming pool.
It's like a boating lake. Sort of.
Yeah, it ended up being like a swimming pool, a massive one. This is the bit of a story of Scarborough. That swimming pool was built up in 1918 and was a recreation bed for people to swim, because there was a massive swimming pool that was like made up for people to train jumping. I don't know if it was like something similar to the Olympics back then, but was like a jumping.
So with a big diving board.
Yeah, but they did a one that was like for families and kids to go around and to spend in summertime.
A shallower one.
Yeah. That was on the top of one of the hills. I was not 100% sure what it was. People, locals were saying to me, "Oh yeah, go up that road and you will find the spot." But then anytime that I was going there was just like literally a road. There was nothing going on in there. So I ended up like, I need to know more about this. So I went to the local library, because someone said to me, one of the ladies that was like saying to me there was a swimming pool in here before said, "Oh, just go to the archives." So they got, and I felt like in a movie when I got in, because they got like, you know, the archives in glass.
Oh,
so it's like a reader.
That's right.
All the newspapers are like in very tiny film.
Is it called microfiche? No, micro, or something like that. I know what you mean. I've seen them in the movies when they scour old newspaper headlines
Yeah,
to solve a crime or something.
When they are like pressing the button and the things are happening like really fast in the screen, and then suddenly they go there. Not in this one. In this one, I had to do it by hand.
Right.
I was just passing, and then I couldn't find newspapers from the opening of the swimming pool. So one of the ladies I was in there was like, "Oh, do you need any help?" And I was like, "Do you working here?" And she was like, "No, but I know the place quite well." And I was like, "Oh, I'm just looking for a swimming pool that was in here built up in 1918." And she was like, "What do you need it for?" It's like for a PhD or something. And I was like, "No, I'm actually looking for a person." And then her face completely changed. She was like, "Oh, is that person from 1918? And I was like, "No, it's 1930. And she was like, "Okay, tell me more." And I explained the story to her. She was amazed by it. And she said to me that she was working for the Scarborough News. That is a newspaper, a local newspaper.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Just pass me a picture of the girl. Just don't say to me the date of birth or where she was born. We put the picture."
Why not?
Because that will help us to have the right person. That basically,
right.
many people will, and that happened actually. Like,
So people would lie. They'd say, "I know her." They didn't know at all. They'd be time wasters.
well, she published a story in the Scarborough News. Scarborough is empty in winter. Just to give you an idea, she posted in the Scarborough News just a picture of June in the swimming pool saying, "Do you know June?" And we gave the name, just that. By the end of the day, I had almost 100 emails from people saying,
I know her.
I'm her. Like I'm her, it's my mom, it's my sister, it's my twin. I had one that was saying that was her twin. And she was like, you can see, I had pictures of people like sending the picture. And I was like, well, just tell me the date that you were born. I was like asking to every single person, tell me the date you were born. And none of the dates were matching. Then if some of the dates were matching, like by magic, I was asking where. Because I knew where she was born. Because on the back of the pictures, I had enough information gathered to know that she was born in Jaxley in 1930, in June of 1930. And that question was not answered by any single person. Right. Any single person. That was like 3 days before we left Scarborough. The very last day at night, after the picture of the door, where we were like already like super happy because we found something that we thought that was impossible. Suddenly I received an email that was coming from a person from a village called Jaxley. And I was like, well, let's try this one. Tell me her whole name and where she was born. And she was like, hello, my name is Sally. That's June Lomax. She's from Jaxley. She was born in 1930 and she passed away in 2010.
Was there a part of you... Because up to this moment, you might have been thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful to actually find June?
Yeah, it was one of the hopes that I had. I mean, matching the age, I already had the feeling that she was not with us anymore. But I had the feeling that I was like going to find at least someone that was alive in her family, if not her. But the pass away bit was a little bit like a goodbye. The thing that really hurt me was like I found the first June picture a month after she passed away. We were separated for a month, so the process of like she passing away to me having the picture in my hand was like so short that I was thinking like just was a coincidence, but was like she passed away in June and I found her in July. That was a very short period.
So close though, so close.
It's like almost there.
Yeah.
I almost catch you.
Yeah.
But I found her in the end. Like in my idea of how to find a person, I found her with every single picture that I got from that box.
Yes.
Like when I found a picture of her in the beach, I found her in the beach. When I was in the Scarborough, when I found the door, I found her in the door. When I found the swimming pool, I found her. It's like anytime that I was like in a place that she was there, like in 1936 when the pictures were taken, for example, I had June closer to me. Yeah. I was thinking she was in here. We shared this space with a very big lapse of time, but we were here at the same place.
Yeah. I want to come to Sally in a moment, who Sally is, what she did for June, but there are some more photographs here. Your quest to find this place and go and stand in the very places where June had been is just glorious. There's one here. Now this is is it a Japanese garden?
Yeah, it's a Japanese garden that is in Scarborough. That was like a good touristic spot. Sometimes I put my life, I'm joking all the time about this, but I put my life in risk sometimes when I had to find a picture. Because this picture, for example, shows a completely different spot. That was the difficult bit.
Oh, right, this is the island.
This is Cornwall.
Oh, no, this is Cornwall. So we've left Scarborough now. Oh, this is Maritime.
Yeah. That's it.
I recognise it now. This is Maritime.
You're good.
Yeah.
So
I recognise this because my friend goes here a lot on holiday, and I thought I recognise that. When I was trying to connect Scarborough with it, it wasn't really. So this is Maritime, isn't it?
It's because he had free tickets to go anywhere. One of the pictures that I had was the dad with the dog.
Yes.
In Cornwall, and I was like, I took my friends down there as well. To take this picture in the same spot, I have to go inside the water to the top of my shoulders and the camera just like on top of my head in February.
Oh, that would have been cold.
Massively cold. My friends were like, you are crazy for doing this. And it's like, it's now or never. So that's why I say all the time that I'm risking my life sometimes to find a spot.
You got very involved.
That was and that was a trouble just for one picture, because that was the only picture that we had for Cornwall. And Cornwall is not close by either.
It's the other end of the country.
Yeah, it was like another 5 hours like driving for one picture. But my friends never questioned.
Did they not?
No. They are like, well, let's do Tony's stuff.
Yeah.
So we went down just for finding that one.
Let's have a look at another couple here. See, now, the interesting thing is now I'm seeing the hairs and the dog hair in the shutter.
It's going to be a thing that you will see now every single time that you see a picture.
Yeah.
Because, you don't pay attention to the things unless you are like looking for it. And when I said to my friends, look for the hair, they couldn't see any other thing that was not the hair. They were like, sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know if it's June or it's on someone else, but there's a hair in here. And then I had a whole collection of pictures with the hair on the bottom.
The imperfections of life that have made this story, isn't that incredible?
It's like the tiny coincidence. The ones that are like, who will say that the person that works for the Scarborough News will be in a library in February in the middle of the week? It was like Tuesday or Wednesday. She was just like going around.
Yeah.
And suddenly I was there. I explained the story. We published this, and hundreds of people are like texting me in the afternoon until the day before leaving the place. Someone is like, this is June. I know her.
So this is literally, maybe not literally, but pretty much the last call, isn't it? You find Sally. Who is Sally?
Sally is a lovely lady who lives in Jaxley. Sally's mum was the nurse for June almost during all her adulthood. Many questions were answered when I met Sally. She mentioned to me that June was from Jaxley, and then I said, well, I'm going straight away there. We were like super tired, but we decided to go down all the way.
How far away is Jaxley from Scarborough?
It's 2 hours and a half. It was halfway in between Scarborough and Oxford.
And Oxford, right.
She explained to me her whole life, and many of the things that I saw in the pictures started like having sense. Like you only need a person to let you know, to introduce you, because everything that was a fantasy before, like I can imagine they were like here for this reason. I can imagine that they are like in this situation for a reason. They were like just dreams and like fiction that I grow around the pictures. But then when she was like, no, this is happening in here because of this is happening in that because of that. She was the one that was mentioning to me that they were like related to the train line, so that's why they were like traveling to Scarborough.
Yeah.
They were like, she was the one that was saying to me that June actually was like the only child, and she didn't have any family, any kids after all, because what happened to June, she had epilepsy, and with epilepsy was a very severe case of epilepsy, and she couldn't have a child. That's why there was no kids behind. There was no family left after her, because she couldn't have any kids after all. In one of the pictures that was given to me like time after, you could see her having her arm hurt.
Oh, she's got an arm in a cast here.
And that happened because anytime that she was having the seizures, Sally's mum was holding her not to hurt herself. When you are getting older, you've got like the bones are like much easy to break. Yeah. So she got the arm broke all the time. Like any time that she was like having a seizure, there was like something going on.
How old was June when she eventually passed away?
She was exactly 80 years old.
80 years old.
Yeah.
And between her being a young girl and 80, you've pieced together the epilepsy, the fact that she was an only child. Do you know anything else? Have you got any other photographs to cover that really long period of her history? Or is the history that you're interested in really the detective work from when she was a young girl with her mum and dad?
So the most interesting bit of like finding out about June was the fact that she was completing the gaps that I had, the doubts that I had of what was going on with my life after my parents passed away. I didn't have much information of June as an adult. Like I only had pictures of her when she was a child. So Sally was blessed because she came with a bag full of pictures, postcards of June in the adult stage. She said that when the council came to the house to take all the stuff, she wanted to treasure, and that's the funny thing, is she wanted to treasure June's picture because she thought this might make June unhappy to know that her pictures were going away.
So she wanted to treasure them and keep them to carry on her history because she had no family. June Lomax, that was the end of the line.
Tony's beautiful photographic detective story is a real tale of persistence, and of course friends who were happy to indulge this quest to learn about someone who was a stranger in life but oddly becoming like a family member by way of that thing we talk so much about on this show, the not so humble, as it would turn out, printed photograph. If ever there was a story to remind us of the importance of a real, tangible, hold-it-in-your-hand experience photograph, well, this is it. At the start of this piece, I talked of Sean Tucker's recounted idea that you pass twice in life. Once with the last beat of your heart, and again when your name is uttered for a final time. But here was Tony, very much keeping June's name alive on the whispers of the wind, seeking her through newspaper articles, conversations between strangers, telephone calls, chats with anyone he should meet along the way happy to listen. Even the unwilling man at number 31 in Scarborough was now carrying her name and story in his memory, well, in some way. But what of the adult life of June? The part of the story that was made possible by a chance meeting in a library with someone who happened to work for a local newspaper that led to an article read by the daughter of a nurse who looked after June during the twilight years of her life.
She had 2 husbands. The first husband was with her until he had the craving of having babies. She couldn't have babies because the husband found out she couldn't have babies, so he dumped her. And she was by herself until she was 60. So when she got divorced from the guy before, and then when she got 60, she
so she's quite a while on her own then.
Yeah. They said Sally said to me that she was a person that was like hiding a lot. She was not part of the community. She was not like getting involved with the community.
So there's not lots of photographs of her doing things?
No, she was like quite a lonely person until she found the love of her life. That was the latest husband. And then he started taking her for traveling, She did all the troubles that she didn't do with the family before, with the husband before.
So she lived her life in adulthood, or her adventures started aged 60.
Yeah, it's never too late. And you can see in all the pictures that she was a massively happy person.
Yes.
Seeing her as an adult and seeing her smiling in the same way.
Yes.
It shows you that nothing happened, but in the background we know that she had epilepsy since she was a kid, and then does skiing.
So she started skiing age 60.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There's pictures of her in the snow.
Yeah.
And then this picture with the cast is from her wedding, the latest wedding that she had.
Right.
With the
Right. Yeah.
because they were like together for a while and then they got married.
What happened to him?
So, as I said, she was like quite isolated. She didn't want to know anything about people. And when she married her latest husband, she started going out. She started going to the community center to dance, and they were well known in the community because they were like the couple that were like dancing and giving everything on the dance floor.
Does he have children?
No.
So this is truly the end of the story for them both.
Yeah, I really hoped that there was someone, but there's no one. Like, I tried and I tried.
No uncles, aunties, sisters, siblings,
No,
nieces,
there was
nephews.
an aunt, and the aunt has a child that was the same age as June, but happened exactly the same. I don't know if she had epilepsy or not, but she passed away with no children. So it's the end of the road. The latest husband, passed away 5 years before she did. So she was 75 when he passed away. And it was quite sad because they said that the June that was like starting to get out, to go to the community center, to like being involved with the community, went back to the cocoon that she was in before.
Oh no.
And she was really sad about it. She even planned when she was going to pass away how the like in the graveyard, she wanted to be sure that was written reunited to dance again.
Oh, that's the grave.
Yeah. That's the grave, and that is what really, 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 really catch my eye when I got into the place.
So Frederick Raymond Lomax, treasured memories of my darling Ray, born 2nd December 25, died 11th of December 2005. Eunice June Lomax, his beloved wife, reunited to dance again. Do you feel your search is complete?
Yeah, I think so. On her side, I think so. But, any time that I say, well, that's it, we found it, we're done, suddenly something comes to me. And in a very, unusual way, one of the times that I was in Jaxley, one person came to me like, oh, you are the guy that is looking after June. And it's like, yeah. And it's like, well, I've got this. Someone gave me a bag full of postcards.
Oh.
The postcards were literally, there was nothing written down on it.
Oh.
But Scarborough wasn't it. Or Scarborough was on all the pictures. So I was like, well, that's a clue. And I was like, what is this? And it's like, oh, this is from one boyfriend that she had. And I was like, okay, what is the name of that boyfriend? It's like Cecil. And I start looking after the whole lot of album that she had in there. There was loads of films that I didn't really loads. When I'm saying loads, is hundreds of films.
Right.
But I didn't find
films, as in cine films,
like photography films.
Oh, photography films. Sorry, yeah.
I didn't understand what was going on in there because I couldn't recognize anyone.
No.
In those pictures.
Oh, that's.
So I started scanning because it was showing me also a time frame from that bit of the city of the Jaxley that I didn't have information of, and it was beautiful. It's showing you an era, an English era that I didn't experience it, and you can see the people wearing certain wedding dresses or eating.
This is very 70s. I know this because I'm looking at the curtains thinking that looks just like the curtains that we had at 13 Cumberland Close in Bengio.
I wish I've got that curtains of that TV. That TV is amazing.
Yeah.
So I started.
That's a rediffusion.
Yeah, I started passing the pictures, scanning lots.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that There was people that I didn't know. There was like places that I didn't see.
So there are connections growing all the time with other people as well that had something to do with her life.
The pictures were like happening like magically. They were like connecting.
Yeah.
This is like a stage of her life that was missing, that I didn't have any information of. And I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures all her life of her being the photographer. That's why she doesn't appear in the pictures. That's probably the loneliest stage that she was trying to connect with.
She was making the pictures.
Yeah.
Right.
I made a fleeting mention earlier about both movie and literary interest in June's story and how a hidden box pushed out of the way on the floor of a bric-a-brac store in London's trendy Camden Market became such an important part of a visiting Spanish student's life. Recently, El Mundo, a national Spanish newspaper, flew Tony back to his homeland from Oxford in England, where he now lives, because they wanted to make a feature about this extraordinary story, and so in Spain, June's name is now known too, kept alive through the archives of their articles. It's the best part of 2 decades later since Tony originally found 2 pictures of a girl called June, and this story is still turning up interesting twists and turns and more photographs. I didn't ask this question, and upon reflection perhaps it would have been a little overly mushy, to use a colloquialism. I'm not sure I'd have found a way of asking without perhaps sounding like I was shoehorning in some kind of projected movie's romanticism, but I did muse, driving away, whether June and his travels to find her was a little responsible for choosing England as his eventual home. Daft? Well, maybe it was. Let's keep that one between ourselves, shall we?
When I was setting out to come and meet you earlier on, I recorded, as I was walking from the office, locking up the office, going through the house and getting in the car, I was recording the introduction to today. And one of the things I said in it was a quote from Sean Tucker's film. Well, I'll paraphrase slightly, but he was talking about, people die twice, once when their heart stops, and then again when their name is mentioned in conversation for the last time. And your story seems to me, I mean, you when you wrote to me, you said, you feel like you're making somebody eternal because June's name is being mentioned over and over. And I feel like in a small way that this podcast is part of taking June forward as well, because we're mentioning her name, and then somebody who listens may mention her name tonight when they're talking to their family around a table perhaps, and maybe somebody around that table will say, I heard this story the other day about this Spanish guy in Oxford that looked for somebody called June, and so it rolls on. And that's what this is about, isn't it? This is proof of just how important and potent family pictures are.
Sometimes I look at it as a part of the proof of the existence of some people.
Yes.
June was left by herself. She passed away by herself. She didn't have any family. No. So she will be like a thing of the past, a decoration picture in someone's houses, like as they were selling her past in a box. I just took the time to put them together because I wanted to make her eternal. I wanted to gather her story and to be able to pass that story to all the generation. And I'm telling you, when I'm gone, June is still going to be remembered because I'm going to be sure that next generation is knowing about her. And I doubt, like knowing June by the talks that I had with Sally, this is the very last thing that she will have in mind when she was like a kid. That someone in 2023, and a Spanish guy from the south of Spain will be talking about her in Oxford. But this is what it's about. It's like to be eternals, to be like that moment that the camera was clicked and we are like framed forever in that square picture is passing to the next generation.
Wouldn't it be lovely to find that camera with a shutter with the dog hair in it?
I will like literally sell all my belongings to find that camera. Yeah.
Do you think it still exists?
It does.
Do you think so?
Probably was sold in Camden. Probably that was in the lot with the pictures.
Word.
Yeah. That TV that we saw in the picture probably was like gone with the whole lot. We don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the funny thing. It's like we got We've got the TV. We've got a picture of the TV. We've got the dog. We've got a picture of the dog. The dog is going to be eternal with us.
Yes, it is.
And June is going to be eternal with the whole story because we got her pictures. We saved her pictures. Yeah. And even if the pictures are like fading, we are going to keep a good record of it. It's going to exist forever.
Tony, we started our conversation by talking about, and I know some people would find this perhaps, although I think you explained it very well, and of course, when you connect it with your story and your father dying suddenly when you were age 12, and you starting to build these albums of what you thought a perfect family life would be from that moment onwards. I hope I'm not being too clumsy, but in asking this question, it might seem slightly Hollywood. But do you feel that June has joined your family album?
Oh, it's 100%. 100%. It's like that family album that I was creating when I was a child now got a new ramification, like a new side that is June's life, that is connected to mine. I found June when I was trying to find the explanation of how my life will develop after my parents pass away. So now it's like, you know, when you get a bone broken and heals and that bit is like the stronger bit, now I'm like more sure than ever that we are connected because her life won't like finish when I started looking for mine.
June's part of your story and you're part of hers.
That's it. I don't know, in a time travel dream, you go there and say, you are going to be remembered. Like, no matter what, no matter if you had kids, if you didn't have kids, if like you wrote it down, someone is going to talk about you and you are going to be remembered, no matter what.
Have you ever fantasized about what you might have said to her had you knocked on the door and said, "Hello, I'm Tony"?
Probably she will roll her eyes and she will like, what do you want? In the same way that the guy was like shutting the door.
I don't think so.
I don't know. It's like, it's difficult. It's difficult to, just imagine that I'm knocking your door and saying, I've got 160 pictures of you. Yeah. Because I took the time to collect it and here I am, like, let's talk. I don't know. It's like, I might took her to the community center and have a dance with her. But apart of that, I think when we are connecting with people, sometimes it's not even in a good and in a bad way. It's like there's an in-between that is like being beneficial for both of us. For her in this side is like to be remembered and to not to be forgotten. For me is to find like answers to my own family tree that was broken at some point when I was a kid.
I think there will be people listening now, and certainly I'm thinking this, that the first thing I'm doing when I get home tonight, and I mean this, is opening some of my old family albums.
Please do. Like every single person that is listening to this, please open an album that you didn't open for ages. I encourage everybody to preserve all the old pictures, like treasure them as they were like the most valuable thing. So if a volcano is like exploding close to you anytime, save your pictures. You've got a story to tell, whoever is coming after you.
And my thanks to Tony Lorenzo. What a wonderful story. What an incredible person. When you think about this story, what he's done. And it doesn't really stop, even though there appears to be a sort of a full stop coming up in this story. There really isn't, is there? It carries on. Talking of carrying on, I really need you to carry on, letting me have your stories, your pictures for the show in 2024. Please keep sending them in to the email address, which is stories@photowalk.show, stories@photowalk.show. And I look forward to recounting your tales as we walk more in 2024. See, it rhymes as well. I have two more stories to share today, one that came as news on Wednesday morning to me, and I'm rather pleased actually. That news was from a good friend, Mally, who made me aware of what had happened while out on a dog walk. So there's this. Then my favourite play-out song, which, by the way, is the most appropriate play-out song to all our stories today. And then the final story, which is a short piece, but a real heart-warmer, and a reason for, well, one, for carrying a camera, and two, perhaps now and then consider turning on and recording your what you hear, as well as what you see, with your, I was about to say iPhone recorder. Other flavours of phone are available, but the recorder that we carry around on our phone, the audio recorder. It'll make more sense later on toward the end of the show. Let me start with the news, though, the very sad news that our friend on this show, Nils Amelinckx, passed away on Tuesday. I thought if you'd allow me, and without sounding like I'm somehow playing to grief for dramatic effect or wallowing, because, believe you me, that would be the last thing Nils would ever want. But I thought I'd read a letter that he sent almost exactly 2 years ago, which featured in one of the very first shows of 2022. Then I have a memory to share, a personal memory of Nils myself, with some words from him following that will play into our play-out song, the song that we use to reflect at the end of each of our Photowalk shows about stuff that we've heard within the programme, the letters of each week's show, the thoughts from guests. And this week, it's not just actually one of my favourite play-out songs from the programme, but actually one of my favourite songs now, full stop. I have a few songs that are favourites of mine. ELO, Mr. Blue Sky, love that song, for all sorts of reasons. Band on the Run, Paul McCartney and Wings. And this particular song, Bayo, This Time of Life, which is a beautiful song with wonderful lyrics that are so appropriate to this programme, the last of 2023. So even though I've read this letter once before 2 years ago, I'd like to read it again, because it's they're words that will resonate so much with so many people, not just at this time of year, but also because of his courage and his words of, just sheer enthusiasm for something you and I love: walking, making pictures, and the cathartic process of putting one foot in front of another whilst we do those things. From Nils. Hello, Neil. Around 6 months ago, he said, I stumbled upon your podcast, as I was and am spending a huge amount of time travelling to and from hospital in Manchester. It's been a great listen to accompany me on these drives, and it never fails to inspire me. At the age of 30, said Nils, as an otherwise fit and well individual, I was diagnosed with advanced bowel cancer and given no more than 5 years to live. We're now around 4.5 years into this turbulent journey, with endless cycles of chemo, 7 rounds of surgery and a bout of radiotherapy, but I'm pleased to say that despite the odds being stacked against me, I'm still here and still smiling. Most importantly, it's made me rediscover my love for photography. I thought I should reach out, as there are a number of elements that are frequently brought up throughout the show that resonate highly with me. First of all, I appreciate how photography can allow you to find solace during times of hardship, how it can give you a sense of purpose, and how it can be a powerful tool to foster mindfulness and to take your mind off the stresses and tribulations of daily life. I first bought my camera at the age of 16 when I was looking for a tool to document my adventures in the mountains whilst on long-distance treks. After I foolishly forgot this camera on a Pyrenean bus, I upgraded to my first DSLR, a Nikon D70. And since then, I've gone through a different number of systems, as I do believe variety is the spice of life. But I must admit, I haven't always been as active with my photography as I am now. Suddenly, with time becoming increasingly precious, I wanted to once again focus on documenting life's adventures through the medium of photography, and for my pictures to act as an inspirational legacy, predominantly intended for my young children to be inspired by when they grow up, should I no longer be there to fulfill that task myself. My main passion outside of photography and mountains is push bikes. So much so that where possible, I try to combine mountain bike photography with the most atmospheric mountain conditions wherever life permits, most often at the crack of dawn. This was somehow picked up through Instagram by a journalist working on behalf of an adventure-driven website, and I ended up landing my first bit of paid photographic work. Prior to that, I'd always felt like what you might refer to as an imposter. I would have never dreamt of pushing my shots out to any media houses. And inspired by this new precedent and boosted by similar stories from your podcast, I started reaching out to mountain bike publications and adventure journals with my newfound confidence. And I'm pleased to say that I've since managed to get a couple of paid-for double-page spreads in some of the UK's biggest cycling publications, and a long-form piece in a more adventure-orientated publication with an additional one now in the works. I suppose it goes to show that whatever life throws at you, you should never give up on your dreams. That photography has merits well beyond capturing memories, and that despite its stigmas, even Instagram can still be a valuable tool to get some of your work seen. Best wishes from the north, from Nils Amelinckx. Well, I didn't get to spend as much time with Nils as I would have liked personally, but I do remember a walk with him in particular where this wonderful zest for life, and at the time as well, and he observed this as well, his gallows humour came to pass in that way that brought a real big smile to my face. I repeated this actually on the Instagram post that was there for Nils, middle of the week. And if you don't mind, I'll read from that so I get it correct in my mind and for you here. Myself and Nils, we met in a place called Shap for I said in inverted commas, little walk, heading off in Nils's camper across and towards a place called Haweswater, where we hurtled, and I mean hurtled at breakneck walking speed along these tracks until, well, the tracks ran out, and then we found ourselves on these steep inclines where we could position ourselves over eventually Haweswater to make a few pictures. Nils did not stop to take a breath. He was on a complete mission to show me the view, and at one stage he looked back and he spotted me struggling to keep up, and he stopped and he turned around and he laughed very heartily in the air. "Excuse me," he shouted. "Who's supposed to be the one with a terminal illness?" Still laughing as he was shouting it. I always thought of Nils, or I have done over the last couple of years, as superhuman, and never really believed that this day would come. But now it has. I'm going to celebrate the good fortune and the absolute privilege that I was able to spend a little bit of time with him personally, and a lot more time chatting with him over these various methods that have opened up the world for so many people to communicate, wherever they are in the world and however far geographically they may be from each other. One of the plans over the last year was to walk or somehow cycle this place called High Street, which is not a street full of shops. No, it's a mountain. I look at it as a mountain, and we were going to record something special for his and our podcast, something quite personal as well. It was in some respects a bit of a pipe dream. Maybe that part was unspoken, but you never knew with Nils. even up to a few months ago, the last time we properly spoke on the phone, or had any kind of longer conversation, he was of the mind, he said something along the lines of, I just have a few niggles and problems, let me get those ones sorted, Neil, and we'll be in touch and we'll make that walk, or words to that effect. Nils, I know you felt a little bit uncomfortable when I referred to you and what you've been through as inspirational, but you truly were, and actually are. If there's some way that you're able to hear this, I'm going to embarrass you a bit further, my friend, by playing some thoughts from you from one of our discussions that we had on the show.
I don't really want to kind of waste my time staring at a little phone screen, which, you know, us millennials find ourselves doing all the time. And I thought, you know, actually photography is a great way to kind of like look up and look around and take in your surroundings, but also notice the small kind of little nuances a little bit more, like, you know, textures, lines, shadows, light, all of that sort of stuff. When you're opening your mind and you're kind of like looking at the little details of the world around you, and you're actually making your brain work a little bit and process more, it does seem like time slows down a little bit. And, you know, in my situation, that's obviously really rather crucial.
It's all in our hands, this life of time that's given to us all. It gathers round each night, each morn. We watch it pass and grow. It is all in our hands, it is all in our hands. With every field and rising sea, can hear the sounds of all, and with every change we'll always be where hope's not lost but found. It is all in our hands, it is all in our hands.
That's Bayo and this life of time, and those words, oh, they're just so appropriate, aren't they? One more trip around the sun. One more trip around the sun. Beautiful sentiments in this, or that song. Beautiful sentiments from a beautiful man as well. A difficult time for his wonderful, brave wife, Laura, and their 2 children. And I'm never quite sure I get the right words at moments like this. So I'm going to end today's show with a moment that happened but 10-15 minutes after I heard the news from Mally Davis, who, by the way, is on the Extra Mile with a new feature he'll be doing in 2024 on the Photowalk show called Jibber Jabber. Mally's on episode 68, along with Alistair Humphreys, some words I kept back from the chat we had a few weeks ago, just for you, where we talk about conquering mountains in your own backyard. They're metaphorical words, maybe, but it's a super story and very inspirational for the new year. And Kieran Beard is my Shooting the Breeze guest, talking about why mentoring can be so very important for your photography. So 3 guests on this week's Extra Mile. Right, on my way back, as I was saying, from my walk on Wednesday, with the news of Nils, I took a slightly different route to normal in the car. Car is often my thinking partner. We spend a lot of time, myself and Car. He's not been on the show of late, has he really? Oh no. Maybe Car, you'll be more present in 2024. Who knows? But yeah, I was spending a bit of driving time in Car, and this drive took me past a lady called Kathleen, a pensioner who was sitting at the side of the road. It's a busy A road junction. And she was holding up a sign that simply said Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I don't want to say too much because I don't want this to be a spoiler. But it was a real tonic, I have to say, for the soul at a time that I most needed it. And a reminder that there are more special people in this world than we sometimes care to think possible. Is that the right phrase? Well, you know what I mean. And though that may seem a little simplistic when you think of the world's problems right now, I thought this was a special person that I wanted you to meet. So I parked up Car, leapt out, took a camera. Well, actually, the only camera I had on me at that particular moment was my phone, so that did. And I recorded just a few words, only a few words with her. So the last words of today's show go to this person. And whether you do or don't observe the tradition of Christmas, I want to at least say thank you for 2023. And I do wish you peace. A clean sensor in your camera, or well-loaded film, and dry walking boots for 2024. This is the amazing thing. Sometimes you're driving along and you just see something and you think, what's that? It's Kathleen. I've taken a picture, and in front of Kathleen is a sign that says Merry Christmas, ho ho ho, Happy New Year, and you're standing underneath the sign for Brimpton and Aldermaston on a main road, sitting on your walker.
Sitting on the walker is...
And on the back it says, keep smiling.
Be happy.
Be happy.
Yes.
So you're sitting at the side of a road,
yes,
holding up a sign. You do this every year?
Every year. Since COVID. Yes, since COVID I've been doing it.
So just to sort of spread a bit of happiness?
Yes, it's just to make people smile, because there's nothing these days that you can smile about.
Everybody hoots at you as well.
Yeah. But no, people aren't happy these days, and it's so sad.
Yeah.
But it's lovely. You know,
sitting
all
here,
the people I see.
Yeah.
They give me prezzies as well.
Do they? They stop and give you prezzies?
Yes, bless their hearts. And I know they can't afford it.
Go on, wave at this one. See if you get a hoot.
No, I don't think I will.
You'll get a hoot. Go on.
No, I won't. I was gonna say you'll get a wave, because they just wave who's ever with me. But
everybody waves.
Oh, they do.
Everybody waves.
They do.
There we go.
You know, God bless them.
I'm going to take your picture. Can I take your picture?
Oh my God.
Here we go. It won't. Oh, blimey. It won't. That sounds like a broken car. Right, let's take your picture.
Don't do a close-up, for God's sake. You see all my wrinkles.
The Photowalk is a Loading Zone production.